There's a truth no woman will ever say out loud, not to her friends, not to her family, not even to herself when she's alone at 2 a.m. staring at the ceiling. A truth that only appears when it's too late, when the damage is done, and when the man she misjudged finally walks away. It's not the fear of losing a toxic man. It's not the fear of losing a man who begged, chased, or clung to her approval. It's the fear of losing the good man she hurt permanently, because a good man's absence hits different. It doesn't explode. It doesn't scream. It doesn't slam doors on the way out. It goes quiet. And that silence, that steady, grounded, irreversible silence, is the one thing she never prepared for. A good man doesn't warn you. He doesn't threaten to leave. He doesn't weaponize his emotions. He simply stops showing up for places where he is no longer valued, and that is the exact moment a woman realizes the truth she was never ready to face. I didn't lose him by accident. I lost him because I pushed away the one man who actually meant it. Every woman can replace attention. She can replace excitement. She can replace the thrill of something new. But the one thing she can never replace, the one thing she fears most after hurting a good man, is losing the version of herself she was only able to become beside him. Because when a good man walks away, he doesn't just leave her life. He leaves a void in it, a void no one else knows how to fill. So today, brother, we're going to break down the cold, quiet, unspoken fears a woman carries long after she wounds a man who would have given her the world. Not to make you bitter, but to make you aware of your worth, aware of your power, aware of the kind of man you become when you stop bleeding for people who take your blood for granted. Take a breath, ground yourself, because once you hear this truth, you won't see yourself or her regret the same way again. There comes a moment quiet, unannounced, brutally honest, when a woman realizes the good man she hurt is no longer the man standing in front of her. It doesn't happen during a fight. It doesn't happen after a breakup. It doesn't even happen the first time he pulls away. It happens the moment she looks into his eyes and sees something she has never seen before: stillness. Not anger, not disappointment, not frustration, just stillness. A calm that feels colder than any argument could ever be. Because when a good man withdraws, the world around him doesn't slam shut, it goes silent. This silence isn't a tactic. It isn't punishment. It isn't manipulation. It's the sound of a man who finally understands his own worth. At first, she thinks it's temporary. She assumes he's hurt and needs a little time. She believes he'll eventually come back because that's what nice guys always do in her mind. Good men are predictable. Right, they forgive. They return. They stay. But then she notices the shift. He doesn't check in the way he used to. His voice loses that familiar warmth. His presence no longer wraps around her like safety. The man who once leaned in now stands centered in himself, unmoved, unbothered, unreachable. And that's when the fear sets in. Because good men don't do circles, they do closures. They don't spin in emotional loops. They don't reopen old wounds. They don't come back to prove anything. When they walk away with clarity. And clarity is irreversible. She begins to replay everything, the moments he gave too much, the moments she gave too little, the patience she mistook for weakness, and the boundaries she crossed because she thought he'd always understand. But what shakes her to the core is not the memory of what she did, it's the reality of who he is now. This man in front of her isn't cold, he's composed. He isn't angry, he's awakened. He isn't fragile, he's finished. She realizes that his absence in her life isn't an emotional reaction, it's a decision born from self-respect. And that decision terrifies her more than any argument, any breakup talk, or any emotional outburst could. Because the truth is simple. You thought he would come back like the weak men before him, but then you realized he's the rare kind, the good man who chooses peace over chaos. That is the exact moment she understands something she never thought she'd have to face. He's gone, not physically, not loudly, but emotionally, and for a good man. Emotional departure is the real goodbye. And once that goodbye happens, there is no path back. What many women never understand, at least not immediately, is that when they lose a good man, they aren't simply losing a boyfriend, a partner, or someone who cared. They're losing an entire ecosystem of emotional richness that is almost impossible to find twice in a lifetime. Because a good man doesn't just love, he stabilizes, he reassures, he protects without smothering, he listens without judgment, he gives without asking for applause, he anchors the emotional storms she never says out loud. His presence isn't loud, but it changes the atmosphere of her life in ways she only notices after it's gone. Most women realize this too late. At first, she thinks she lost a person, a man she dated. But with time, she begins to understand the deeper truth. She didn't lose you. She lost the entire version of herself she could only become when she was next to you. That's the part that haunts her, because a good man creates a certain emotional climate around a woman, that sense of home, that subtle calm in her nervous system, that unspoken safety she didn't know she relied on, that emotional sanctuary she assumed was normal until she meets the world without it. Good men bring a depth that most people don't carry. They speak softly, but with intention. They show up consistently, even in small ways. They remember the things she forgot about herself. They catch the details no other man even noticed. When she loses that, she doesn't just lose affection. She loses goodness, the rare kind that isn't performative. Sanctuary, the emotional shelter she never thanked him for. Stability, the steady presence that held her together during her own chaos. Safety, not physical, but psychological with him. I can be my full self. And once she steps into the world again, she begins to see the contrast. She meets a man who's attractive but cold, a man who gives attention but inconsistently, a man who's charming but shallow, a man who likes her but only on his terms. Suddenly, she remembers how, with you, things were different, how your conversations had substance, how your eyes softened when she was overwhelmed, how your presence felt more like warmth than noise, how your loyalty wasn't transactional, how your energy wasn't chaotic. She begins to see the truth. Most men give effort only when it benefits them. A good man gives effort because it's who he is. That's the loss she didn't calculate, because you weren't just a partner. You were a mirror that reflected her best self, a compass that helped her navigate her insecurities, a grounding force that quieted her anxieties, a consistent light in a world filled with flickering connections. Without you, she starts to feel the cracks. When something goes wrong, you're no longer the first person she wants to call, and that emptiness scares her. When life overwhelms her, she reaches for comfort and realizes the comfort is gone. When she meets new men, she notices how shallow their intentions are compared to the depth you carried effortlessly. When she feels lonely, your absence becomes the reminder that she lost someone irreplaceable. This is where the weight settles in her chest. She didn't just lose love, she lost the rare emotional world that came with your love. And that realization becomes even heavier when she recalls the times she dismissed your kindness, misunderstood your patience, or believed your consistency meant she could slack on hers. Because other men won't pick up her late-night calls. They won't read between the lines of her silence. They won't hold her when she shuts down emotionally. They won't stay present when she gets difficult. They won't remember the small things. They won't love her in a way that makes her feel safe, not just wanted. Only a good man does that. And now she sees what she truly lost. Not a boyfriend, not a relationship, not a title. She lost the version of herself that only existed in your presence, the softer version, the more grounded version, the more honest version. She lost the man who made her feel understood in a world that mostly misunderstands her. And that's why the regret runs so deep. Because deep down, she knows. She didn't just lose you. She lost the version of herself she could only be next to you. And no matter who she meets next, no matter how much she pretends to have moved on, no matter how loudly she laughs or how busy she keeps her life, a part of her will always know. Good men don't come often, and when they leave, they don't come back. There is one moment that shakes a woman far more than tears. Arguments, anger, or any emotional outburst ever could the moment she meets a silent good man. Most men react loudly when they're hurt. They send long messages. They demand explanations. They try to fix things, negotiate, hold on. Their desperation shows through words, tone, and urgency. But a good man doesn't erupt. He evaporates. His silence is not the absence of emotion, it is the presence of clarity. And that is the one thing she never expected. Because when a toxic man gets quiet, she rolls her eyes. When an immature man gets quiet, she gets annoyed. But when a good man gets quiet, she gets scared. Deeply, internally, quietly scared. His silence is not a tactic. It's not a manipulation. It's not a test. It's the final verdict, a verdict she can feel even without a single word spoken. The truth is this: a man yelling is still emotionally involved. A man explaining is still trying to be understood. A man arguing still wants repair. But a man who goes silent has already accepted the ending. This is the silent fear that crawls into her mind at night. Because your silence is not like other men's silence. It is steady, calm, and unnervingly peaceful. It signals something she never imagined she would face: a good man's emotional detachment. And emotional detachment from a good man is unlike anything she's ever experienced. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with a dramatic exit. It arrives subtly, slowly, and unmistakably. She notices it in your eyes first, that the warmth she once felt there has cooled into something still, grounded, unreachable. She notices it in your tone, not sharp, not angry, not bitter, just neutral. And neutrality scares her more than anything. She notices it in your presence, the same presence that once made her feel safe, now feels distant, unavailable, no longer hers. She notices it in the way you no longer rush to respond, no longer try to solve everything, no longer soften your boundaries for the sake of peace. This shift hits her deeper than any shouted argument ever could. Because silence is not a weapon. Silence is a mirror. And for the first time, she sees the truth reflected back at her. She pushed a good man past the point of return. She realizes that you're not waiting for her anymore. You're not fighting for her anymore. You're not hoping she'll change. You're done. Not angry. Not heartbroken. Not longing. Just done. And this is where her fear begins to expand inside her chest. Because your detachment is not temporary. It isn't a phase she can charm her way out of. It isn't a mood she can soothe with a cute apology or a few sweet words. A good man's detachment is a transformation. It is the moment his heart stops reaching outward and starts returning inward. And women know instinctively that this kind of detachment is irreversible. This is why your silence terrifies her more than your anger ever could. Anger means you still care. Silence means you've accepted reality. Anger means you're still holding on. Silence means you've let go. Anger means she still has influence. Silence means she has lost it. This is the fear she hides from her friends. The fear she cannot put into words. The fear she denies during the day but feels deeply at night. What if his silence is permanent? What if he has truly detached from me? What if the good man I hurt will never look at me the same way again? Because deep down she knows once a good man's heart closes. It rarely opens again for the person who caused the closure. She replays conversations. She revisits her decisions. She starts remembering the kindness, the warmth, the loyalty she once found so normal. She remembers how your energy made her feel safe, how your presence softened her stress, how your patience steadied her when she felt lost. And now, in the quiet space your silence created, she feels something she didn't expect, the weight of her own actions. Your silence forces introspection she's avoided for years. Your detachment forces her to see her own patterns. Your absence forces her to confront the truth she's been running from. She didn't lose a man. She lost her access to a kind of love she wasn't ready to honor. And for the first time, she realizes something no one taught her but life itself. A good man's silence isn't empty. It's full of the truths she refused to hear. There is a particular fear that rises in a woman's chest after she loses a good man, a fear sharper than regret, heavier than guilt, and far more haunting than loneliness. It is the fear of being replaced. Not because she thinks you'll run into someone new overnight, but because she knows deep down that if you ever love again, The next woman will get a version of you she never deserved. This fear doesn't hit her immediately. At first, pride shields her. Denial comforts her. Her ego whispers, "He'll be back." He always comes back. But with a good man, that illusion doesn't last long. Because when a good man finally detaches, he doesn't collapse, he evolves. And that evolution terrifies her. She knows other men move on quickly, out of desperation or distraction. But a good man moves on slowly, intentionally, transforming himself as he goes. Your silence gives you space. Your pain becomes fuel. Your healing becomes momentum. You rebuild your confidence, your discipline, your purpose. And she watches that transformation from a distance she created. And that's when the fear begins tightening around her. She imagines another woman standing where she used to stand. Another woman receiving the gentleness she dismissed. Another woman benefiting from lessons you learned through heartbreak. Another woman getting the upgraded version of you, the man who now has stronger boundaries, clearer standards, deeper self-respect. This is what cuts her the deepest. Good men don't go back to the woman who broke them. They grow into someone stronger, wiser, more intentional, and they give that improved version to someone who actually appreciates it. She knows that when you finally love again, you won't repeat your old mistakes. You won't overgive. You won't tolerate disrespect. You won't ignore red flags. And because of that, your next relationship will be better, not because she was bad, but because you learned. And this truth burns her silently. The next woman will get the version of him that I never thought I'd lose. It haunts her because she recognizes something she cannot admit out loud. She didn't lose a good man. She lost the rarest kind of man. A man who would have given her the world if she'd simply valued him. A man who offered stability in a world full of inconsistency. A man whose loyalty wasn't transactional. A man whose presence calmed storms she didn't even understand. Now, the idea of another woman experiencing that version of you, a version she helped shape through her own mistakes, creates a kind of internal panic she cannot soothe. She starts comparing herself to imaginary women. Is she prettier? Is she kinder? Does she see his value more clearly? Will she treat him the way he deserved from the start? Even if you haven't moved on, the possibility is enough to unravel her composure. Because she knows good men don't stay alone out of emptiness. They stay alone until they heal. And once healed, they become irresistible, not in a loud way, not in a superficial way, but in the quiet, grounded way women feel in their chest. She fears that after losing her, you will meet someone who sees your value instantly. Someone who doesn't need to lose you to appreciate you. Someone who doesn't project her wounds onto you. Someone who doesn't confuse kindness with weakness. Someone who loves you calmly and consistently, two things she never mastered. And the fear goes even deeper. She knows the next woman will get the man she always wanted you to become, but didn't give you the emotional safety to grow into. Your glow-up exposes her loss. Your progress highlights her mistakes. Your healing becomes a silent mirror she can't turn away from. Because every step you take forward becomes proof of the truth she avoided. Once a good man learns his worth, he doesn't go back to who broke him, he upgrades who receives him. This truth cuts her in a way heartbreak never could. Because heartbreak is about losing what you love. But replacement is about losing what you once took for granted to someone stronger, wiser, and more ready than you ever were. It's the kind of fear that lingers quietly, breathing in the background of her life. It shows up when she sees your name. It whispers when she hears about you from someone else. It haunts her when she sees you looking healthier, calmer, or happier, because deep down she knows the good man she hurt will not just move on, he will move upward. And when he finally gives his heart again, it will not be a downgrade. It will be the upgrade she never expected and never gets to undo. There comes a moment quiet, heavy, and impossible to escape when a woman who has hurt a good man must finally face herself. Not the version she shows the world, not the persona she hides behind, but the raw truth of who she was when she had him and who she became after she lost him. This moment doesn't arrive immediately. It creeps in slowly, disguised as random memories, sudden guilt, or a strange ache she can't explain. But eventually, the truth corners her, and she can no longer outrun it. That truth is simple, brutal, and unspoken. She became the villain in the story of a man who would have never played that role in hers. She never meant to be. No one wakes up and decides to mistreat the one person who loved them purely. But when the noise fades, when the chaos settles, and when his presence is gone, she begins to replay everything with a painful clarity she didn't have before. She remembers the moments he tried to talk and she dismissed him. She remembers the times he reached out gently while she reacted harshly. She remembers how he gave without hesitation, while she gave conditionally, selectively, or not at all. And the weight of those memories presses on her chest like a quiet storm she deserves but never prepared for. For the first time, she sees him without the filter of her pride. She sees the patience she confused with neediness. She sees the consistency she mistook for convenience. She sees the kindness she mislabeled as weakness. And the realization hits harder than any breakup ever could. He wasn't the problem. She was. What makes this accountability so painful isn't simply losing him, it's losing who she was when she was with him. Because a good man brings out a softer, safer, more honest version of a woman. He gives her space to be fragile without fear. He listens to the words she doesn't say. He sees the good in her even when she hides it. And when he leaves, he takes with him the environment that allowed her best self to exist. Now she sees herself clearly, perhaps for the first time, and she doesn't like what she sees. This clarity doesn't explode, it sinks. It seeps into quiet moments. It settles in the silence at night when distractions fade. It whispers through regrets she can't confess to anyone else. Because admitting the truth would mean facing a confession she isn't ready to voice. I lost him because of me. She can't blame timing. She can't blame circumstances. She can't blame misunderstandings. There is no hiding behind excuses when the person she hurt was someone who gave her more chances than she deserved. And that's where the accountability becomes unbearable. In losing a good man, she loses the last safe place she had to grow. She realizes he wasn't perfect, but he was genuine. He wasn't flawless, but he was loyal. He wasn't everything, but he was exactly what she needed. And she destroyed that not through malice, but through neglect. This is the kind of loss she can't talk about with her friends. They might tell her she'll find better, but she knows they're wrong. They might tell her he'll come back, but she knows he won't. They might tell her it wasn't meant to be, but deep down she knows the truth, it was meant to be. She just mishandled it. And the worst part, there is no redemption arc waiting for her. No grand apology that will rewind the clock. No emotional speech that will rebuild what she broke. Because a good man does not return to the place where clarity told him to leave. So she carries the accountability alone. Not loudly, not publicly, but internally as a reputation only she can hear. A quiet identity she cannot escape, the woman who lost a man who would have loved her forever. This internal reputation follows her into every new relationship. She compares each new man to the one she pushed away. She notices how they don't listen like he did, how they aren't patient like he was, how they lack the emotional maturity, gentleness, and depth he gave so freely. She keeps searching for pieces of him in other men, only to realize too late that what she had was rare, and what she lost was irreplaceable. And so she lives with a truth she tells no one, that in one man's story, the man who would have done anything for her, she wasn't the love of his life. She was the lesson. This is the accountability that transforms her from within. Not because she wants him back. Deep down, she knows she won't get that version of him again, but because she now understands the gravity of losing someone good, someone pure, someone who showed up wholeheartedly. This understanding will shape her every decision moving forward. Not out of shame, but out of the painful wisdom gained from the role she never wanted to play, the villain in a good man's story. There is a very specific type of fear that only appears after a woman loses a genuinely good man, a fear that doesn't show up when she dates toxic men, inconsistent men, immature men, or men she never respected. It shows up when she realizes the man she hurt isn't broken. He's becoming better. At first, she doesn't notice it. She assumes he's like everyone else, wounded, confused, stuck, replaying the past the way she is. She believes the silence means he's hurting the same way she is. But then she sees something she never expected. You didn't collapse. You evolved. You didn't drown in the silence. You used it as fuel. You turned the pain she caused into discipline, growth, and direction. The glow-up of a good man is different. It's not loud. It's not revenge-driven. It's not meant to make her jealous. It's a natural result of him finally pouring his energy back into himself, energy he once gave her so freely. She sees the changes slowly, in fragments. Maybe it's your body transforming muscles, replacing stress, strength replacing anxiety. Maybe it's your mind sharper, calmer, more present, no longer begging for clarity from someone who gave you confusion. Maybe it's your finances stable, rising, intentional, because now you're pushing forward instead of being emotionally drained backward. Maybe it's your life structure, routines, boundaries, discipline, purpose, things she used to interrupt, now growing exactly because she's no longer there to distract them. And this is where her fear spikes in a way she didn't expect. You're becoming the man she always wanted you to be, but now you're becoming him for someone else. She remembers the version of you she had, loving, patient, forgiving, hopeful. But when she sees your transformation, she realizes you've unlocked a new version of yourself, a version she no longer has access to. That's the part that terrifies her the most. Because the glow-up of a good man is not just improvement, it's graduation. It's proof that her role in your story is over. And your rise is the confirmation. She sees the discipline. She sees the new confidence in your posture. She sees the calm in your voice. She sees the new circle of people who respect you more than she ever did. She sees the way other women notice you, and this time, not for what you gave, but for who you've become. And suddenly she understands she didn't just lose the man you were. She lost the future you, the man who would have protected her better, the man who would have loved with more depth, the man who would have led with more clarity, the man who would have shown up with more strength, more peace, more presence. You became everything she hoped you'd eventually become, but she doesn't get to benefit from any of it. This is the fear that wraps around her chest late at night. Not that you replaced her quickly. Not that you forgot her. Not that you're happy without her. But that your glow-up proves what she tried to deny. She wasn't the woman built for the man you were destined to become. And here's the truth she will never admit. Your transformation didn't hurt her because she wanted you back. It hurt her because it highlighted everything she failed to value when she had the chance. The new version of you, grounded, solid, masculine, aligned, stands as a silent reminder of the future she'll never touch. And every step you take upward echoes the same truth in her mind. He didn't just move on. He outgrew me. This is the quiet terror that lingers long after the breakup, long after the silence, long after her ego has faded. She didn't just lose you. She lost the version of herself she was becoming beside you, and the version of you that would have changed her life. But now, that man belongs to someone else. There is a fear that follows a woman long after she hurts a good man. Not the fear of losing him in the moment. Not the fear of seeing him with someone else. Not even the fear of being replaced. No, the deepest fear comes much later, in the quiet spaces of her life. When she realizes something she never expected you healed, and she stayed the same. At first, she comforts herself with a familiar lie that you're hurting somewhere, replaying the memories, missing her voice, missing her presence, missing the emotional safety she once assumed she gave you. But as time passes, something unsettling begins to surface. The lie no longer works. The illusion no longer holds, because the evidence of your growth becomes too loud to ignore. She sees the calm in your eyes, the strength in your posture, the groundedness in your energy. She sees a man who isn't clinging to the past, isn't chasing closure, isn't carrying emotional debris the way she secretly hoped you still were. She sees a man who has returned to himself, and that realization shakes her more than any breakup ever could. Because when a good man heals, he doesn't heal halfway. He heals completely. He doesn't patch wounds, he rebuilds foundations. He doesn't numb the pain, he transforms it into purpose. He doesn't search for validation, He cultivates self-respect. Your healing becomes a mirror she cannot escape. It reflects everything she avoided dealing with. Her patterns, her wounds, her immaturity, her sabotage, her fear of emotional intimacy, her tendency to ruin what is good and chase what is chaotic. Your silence once scared her. Your distance once unsettled her. Your glow-up once intimidated her. But nothing terrifies her more than watching you become the man she always needed, while she remains the same woman who lost you. This realization doesn't shout. It whispers. It whispers when she sees your life improving. It whispers when she notices the peace in your expression. It whispers when other women admire you, not for your potential, but for your presence. It whispers when she compares her stagnant growth to your evolution. It whispers when she senses that the man she once knew is no longer alive, because he evolved into someone stronger than she ever imagined. And in that haunting whisper lies her deepest fear. You healed past the version of her you once loved. You rose into a level she cannot reach. You built discipline she never developed. You created structure she never valued. You cultivated emotional maturity she always ran from. She feared losing you, but she never expected to fear losing access to the man you became because she hurt you. That fear is sharper, deeper, and far more permanent, because here's the truth she can't admit, even to herself. Your healing proved she was not the one you were meant to end up with. Your growth proved that she was a chapter, not the book. Your peace proved that she was an interruption, not a destination. Your strength proved that her absence didn't break you, it revealed you. And that is what hurts her most. Not the loss itself, but the meaning of the loss. Because she stayed the same. She stayed stuck in old habits while you built new ones. She stayed trapped in emotional cycles while you mastered emotional control. She stayed attached to her comfort zone while you stepped into purpose. She stayed dependent on validation while you became self-sufficient. She stayed predictable while you became unshakable. Your healing exposed a truth she never wanted to face. The gap between who she is and who you have become is now too wide to bridge. And it's not just the gap, it's the realization that you didn't heal to impress her. You didn't rise to prove anything to her. You didn't level up to spark jealousy or regret. You did it because you finally chose yourself. That, to her, is the most devastating part. Your evolution had nothing to do with her anymore. And now, her fear takes on a different shape. It isn't, what if he never comes back? It isn't, what if he finds someone else? It becomes something far more painful. What if I was never the woman who could grow with him? This is the fear that stays. This is the fear that returns years later. This is the fear that shows up when she sees you thriving. This is the fear that hits when she realizes your life is moving forward without a single thread tied to her memory. She may never say it out loud. She may never send the message. She may never apologize. She may never admit she regrets losing you. But deep down, she knows the truth. You healed. She didn't. You evolved. She repeated. You moved on. She remained stuck. You became grounded. She stayed reactive. You built a future. She clung to the past. And when a woman watches a good man heal into someone extraordinary, the fear that settles inside her never fades. The fear that she stayed the same woman who ruined the one man who could have changed her life. And that's the truth she carries, not just for a moment, not just for a season, but quietly, relentlessly, forever. Brother, if you've made it this far, then you already understand something most men never learn. Losing a woman is not the real loss. Losing yourself is. And the greatest victory a good man can have after being hurt is not revenge, not proving her wrong, not making her regret, but becoming so grounded, so disciplined, so aligned with your purpose that you no longer need the apology you once begged for. Her fear will linger. Her regret will echo. Her memories will haunt only her. Because you didn't just move on, you evolved past the version of you she once knew. You found direction. You built purpose. You reclaimed your peace. And that peace is now your boundary, your shield, your new standard. So remember this truth. Your healing is the closure. Your growth is the answer. Your peace is the revenge. And if she ever watches you from a distance, and believe me, she'll realize something that cuts deeper than heartbreak. You didn't just walk away. You outgrew the story she kept trying to pull you back into. So, brother, if this message hit you, if it reminded you of your worth, if it helped you see the man you're becoming, then don't leave quietly. Drop this in the comments to anchor today's message, "My healing is my power," and make sure you like the video. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because every week we're sharpening your mind, strengthening your spirit, and building the kind of man no one ever gets to take for granted again. Stay grounded, stay disciplined, and never regret walking away from someone who couldn't value the goodness you carried. This is Stoic Truth 101, and your story is just beginning.